Good morning, and thank you for hearing us today. My name is Nikki, and I am Jackson's mom. And this is Jackson on the way to school. I am here today with Nathaniel's mom, Megan, Blake's mom, Renee, and Annalise's mom, Kim. And we are asking for an amendment to Florida Statute 1012.585 that would stipulate that every Florida educator, including administration, seeking to renew educational certification must earn a minimum of 40 in-service hours in hands-on inclusive education training as part of the 120 service hours required for renewal of the certificate, and that training be unified and emanate directly from the Florida Department of Education. Now, as an ESE teacher and an inclusion teacher, I am aware of the many benefits of inclusive education. It benefits students neurodivergent or otherwise. Anything from making better academic gains, reaching goals, learning and developing better communication and collaboration skills, those things come out of inclusion. Research shows us that all the time. And that last one with communication and elaboration, that's something they're actually going to need as they grow up and get older and start to take care of us as we get older. And as a teacher, I also know that there's already a lot of classes and instruction available for inclusive education, such as co-teaching models, assistive technology, and behavior management and assessment for children with varying exceptionalities, but none of those are requirements. They're not even requirements under the 20-hour in-service credits in exceptional student education that we all need to renew our certificate. But that last point actually highlights one of the larger misconceptions about inclusive education, is that it only exists just under ESE, or exceptional student education. It doesn't. Inclusion is for all students at any point of education, again, neurodivergent or otherwise. And when I think about it, I think about my experience with Jackson the most. Oh, pardon me. Now, he was diagnosed at about 2 years old with autism. He is minimally verbal, meaning that he has a couple words. He has a lot of vocalizations, but he just repeats things over and over that he hears. He's echolalic. And unless you speak Jackson, you have very little understanding of what he's trying to communicate to you, and that becomes so very frustrating for him. And that's what leads most of the time to issues with behavior. And for that reason, and because of the severity of his disability, he receives his education at a center school, meaning he is there in the facility all day with disabled peers only. But he's there because that is the safest place for him, because that staff understand how to speak Jackson, and they understand how to navigate his abilities to meet him where he's at and help him learn and grow, which is what inclusion is actually about, meeting every child where they're at and helping them learn and grow together. So one of my bigger concerns is knowing that he's going to have the opportunity for inclusion next year when he is in the 6th grade, because his center school is housed on the same campus as a high school and middle school for general education students. Again, going back to safety, not everybody knows how to speak Jackson. Not everybody knows how to understand those behaviors. And that doesn't affect just Jackson. He loses if he doesn't get inclusion. But again, who else loses? His non-disabled peers. They need to know how to communicate with him, and he needs to know how to communicate with them. They can teach each other, because as a lot of parents know, our children have been the best teachers we have ever had. They teach us ways to think that we never thought of we had to think, and do things and discover abilities we never knew we had. That is what inclusion for all students does, not just for Jackson, but for everyone. But again, not every teacher is trained and prepared to that, but that can all change with the introduction of training in inclusive education for all teachers and administration. And now, Megan, Nathaniel's mom, will continue.
Hello, my name is Megan. I'm the mom of Nathaniel, who is 4 years old, and Willa, who is 3. She just turned 3. Not used to saying that yet. But inclusive education is important to me because I want my son to be treated just like any other kiddo. I see so many areas of our lives where he is treated differently because of a diagnosis. I think back to my faith where we are taught that Jesus loves everyone. My son was 2 years old when we started attending our church. He was so happy attending Sunday school and playing with other kiddos. He was diagnosed with autism shortly after that. As soon as we received the official diagnosis, the kids' worship director required him to have a one-on-one buddy, even though there had not been any issues, but simply because of a diagnosis. Many times, in order for Nathaniel to attend Sunday school, I was required to be with him, missing worship myself. One day was particularly tough. While we were doing the craft activity, a little boy looked at me and said, "What is wrong with him?" with a disgusted look on his face. Then later in the play area, another little boy said the same exact thing. These boys were 4 years old. This is all because my son wanted to peel the paper off a crayon instead of color and was running around the playground excitedly. The director had assigned Nathaniel to an older classroom because they thought it would be better for him due to a smaller class size. However, with that came more demands like sitting still and quiet during story and worship time. Not an easy feat. However, what I observed while I attended with him is that he acted just like any of those other 4-year-olds in that classroom. I feel if inclusive education was promoted more, those situations may not have occurred. I hear many, many stories of families not getting what their child needs for their education, which resonates with me because of my experience at church. We are just starting our educational journey with Nathaniel as he is our oldest child. Nathaniel will be entering VPK this fall, and I am having trouble finding a program that will accept him. He has been in ABA therapy for almost 2 years with the one-on-one support in a small classroom setting. I have no idea how he will be when we go into the general education. But I wanted my son to have inclusive education and not be in a general education, least restrictive setting. I've spoken to numerous program directors and explained our situation, and I got no after no after no, we cannot accommodate your son here, and was referred to autism schools. I feel these challenges and barriers exist due to the lack of awareness and understanding by educators and administrators surrounding kids with disabilities and how to promote inclusive education in the classroom. That's why I'm standing in front of you today. We are seeking hands-on training and inclusive education be mandated by the Florida Department of Education for all administrators, teachers, and staff that have impact on our children's lives and educational career. This would not only have a positive impact on kiddos with disabilities, but all students. I do not want Nathaniel to be another statistic not getting the education he deserves. Our goal is to enrich the lives of all students, as well as equip teachers and administrators with the tools and resources they need to help all. All children in the state of Florida deserve an inclusive education, regardless of where they live, and with teachers and administrators that can provide that with standardized training program. Please partner with us in amending Florida Statute 1012.585 to stipulate that every Florida educator, including administration, desiring to renew a teaching credential must earn 40 in-service hours of hands-on inclusive education training to create a better environment for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for everybody making the time to be here. My name is Renee. I am the mom of 2 children, Alex 20 and Blake 10. One of Alex's attributes is being unilaterally deaf, and one of Blake's attributes is having Down syndrome. I joke that Alex is my training bike and Blake is my Tour de France bike in this world. Today I want to share Blake on our ongoing story in our fight for inclusion. This is Blake. He is 10 years old. Blake started in the public school when he was 3 years old. When it was time for him to start kindergarten, we had our first IEP meeting. During this meeting, we were pushed into by the school district to have him go into a self-contained kindergarten classroom, which is the site school for where children with Down syndrome go. I wanted him to go to his zone school, but they were the people that quote unquote know, and I let them direct us. People with Down syndrome model after people they are around. Blake modeled hitting, biting, pinching, scratching, and kicking in self-contained kindergarten. They said this was normal for our children with special needs. As well, the school made us drop off at the back of the school where the special needs children were dropped off. After this difficult year, we decided inclusion was best for Blake. The school refused. The district threatened to pull services from our son if we chose that route. We decided to go to our zone school. How can they refuse? It's public school. It took 2 school years to reverse behaviors from kindergarten. By 3rd grade, we were able to focus more on his education and less about behaviors. We're now in 5th grade. Blake's curriculum is based on kindergarten access point standards. Blake has a one-on-one para and is the only child with Down syndrome at his school. It's a site school for children that are on the spectrum. Blake has 4 teachers. He has a reading teacher, math, science, and ESE. For all intents and purposes, though, he has only one teacher, which is his ESE teacher, who plans Blake's work and instructs his para on the lesson plans. The other teachers are uncomfortable having Blake in the classroom without his para, even though they like him, they love him. They just don't know how to include him. Why are the teachers so dependent on the ESE teacher to teach? Why are the teachers so dependent on the para to teach? Why is Blake forced to have codependence on his para? Our story is not unique. Many parents I know give up on the school system. They homeschool or they go to a school where for kids that have special needs, a private school. It shouldn't have to be this way. Imagine if the teachers were required to have inclusive training and all have the same foundation. Imagine if they see the ESE teacher as a co-teacher. Imagine the impact of having 4 teachers and in a truly inclusive environment, and where Blake could be today with his education. Imagine the inclusive tools that could be used for Blake could also be used for all the students that may learn a little differently, either neurodivergent or otherwise. I implore you to amend Florida Statute 1012.585 to stipulate every Florida educator, including administration, do 40 in-service hours of hands-on inclusive education training to create a better learning environment for everyone. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Kimberly, a mom of 7, better known as Annalise's mommy. I'm standing along beside my partners here, asking for consideration to have a more hands-on approach with exposing teachers and their administrators in the area of inclusion. This approach not only benefits children like Annalise, who has Down syndrome, but also all children. Annalise is 7, and she is now in the 1st grade. She has traveled to 49 states with all of her family members, crazy. And at 3 years old, she wasn't walking yet without assistance. We were hiking up a mountain in Alaska, the rockiest darn hike I've ever had in my life. And she decided, hey guys, I want to walk now. I knew she could do it, but I didn't think she knew yet. She decided by example, watching all of us go up this hike, that she was doing it too. I use that as an example of inclusion. We didn't hinder her from going up the mountain. We didn't have another way around or someone sit at the bottom. We took her with us and she jumped out and started walking herself. So I have this next picture because my story is not like my partners here. Mine has a more positive approach. I did walk into my county schools. I was always under the impression that Florida was completely inclusion focused. So I was a little disappointed. I saw all the ESC students in the back portables kind of rusted out. They're all together. And I just wasn't ready for my little Alaska hiking girl to go in the back portable. So I sought out some other schools, and I found one who had Miss Sanford. She's actually a graduate PIP. But she was amazing at teaching, well, not just Annalise, but her entire class. My husband and I walked into her open house, And they had all these little cute boxes of crayons and pencils. And then I saw this really weird contraption, better known as a pencil gripper. And this crazy thing that is made out of a pipe. I looked at her, and I looked at everybody else's boxes, and every child had one of these crazy tools in them. And I looked at her, and she thought, well, this is what inclusion looks like. I offer it to Annalise, but I'm also offering it to all of my students. I thought, wow. I have a 13-year-old daughter who was just diagnosed with audio processing. 13, she was just diagnosed. We struggled for years with her reading. She couldn't understand the letters, but if she had this crazy looking thing, she could hear herself articulate. What a difference that would have made in our journey with her. This is Shelly. This was her aide. We chose her because she had a dream of working with children, and she also has a unique abilities and didn't know if that dream was going to come true. I took a chance on her, like I'm hoping someone will take a chance on Annalise one day. I have seen these two, my daughter and Shelly, grow and bloom over the years, and that's kind of what I'm asking you today, is to step out and take a chance, because right now we have a lot of online classes. They're not hands-on any longer. There's just something powerful about when you have face-to-face, heart-to-heart, eyeball-to-eyeball. And when you can get the educators and teachers in that atmosphere with people like Miss Sanford teaching, or whoever else you choose, to partner up with us to change that it's just one little change can make a really big difference. There's something to be said. You can't teach heart, but you can inspire change by example. So we are asking you to change the Florida Statute 1012.585 to have Florida teachers and administrators earn 40 hours hands-on practicing what inclusion looks like, so we can be the example they can follow. Thanks for your time.